Hello, welcome back to the garden. We're at the beginning of March now, the 3rd to be precise. We're still in winter, and as much as we've had some really nice warm weather over the weekend, it's the beginning of the week now and it is really cold. In the UK, we're going to get to spring on the 20th of March. So we've still got quite a way to go before we can really start thinking about kind of all systems go with planting our seeds, sowing things, and yeah, going mad. But in today's video, I'm really excited because we are going to be sowing some carrots. I've been through my seed box this morning and I've managed to pick out 4 varieties of carrots that you can grow at this time of year. Now, if you don't know, carrots are a really versatile and easy crop to grow. And if you play your cards right, you can probably get harvest every single week of the year. There are thousands of varieties of carrots out there. You get the kind of more standard orange ones, you can get rainbow ones, you can get ones that grow big, small, in pots, out in the ground, in the polytunnel. You can get ones that you can sow in autumn, winter, you know, all types of the year. So if you've not grown them before, give it a go because they are actually quite easy to grow. The varieties that I've gone for today are ones that we can start off early in the year. Before I start excitedly talking you through the varieties of carrots that we're going to be sowing today, I just wanted to give you a little bit of a background on what my experience of growing carrots is. And generally, that is, unfortunately, I've only really ever been successful in growing carrots in pots. And I think the best year here was about 2018, I think. I grew loads of carrots in one big rectangular pot and we harvested those. I can't remember how much we got, but it kept us going for absolutely ages. And ever since, I've really only tried growing them in the open ground. I managed to get them to germinate really nicely. They start growing, and then what has happened in every single instance is that we've then had quite a bit of rain, and I've come across the next day and every single one has been eaten by slugs and snails. So this year I am determined to try and get some grown in the open ground, but I really want to get harvest, so I'm probably mostly going to be sowing them in pots or inside the polytunnel and in the greenhouse. As I mentioned, there are 4 varieties, and out of all of the varieties, they're all very different and they are going to be grown in different areas. So the first variety that we're going to be sowing today is called Oxheart. Now, Oxheart is a variety that I've never grown before, and when I saw a picture of it a few years ago, I thought I just can't wait to grow it. Now, the picture here is a little bit underwhelming actually, but when I saw it, it's probably worth having a Google actually. They look really big. It's called Oxheart because it's meant to resemble an ox's heart, and obviously that's a pretty big animal, so it's meant to be pretty big, but in the picture there it looks a bit smaller. Now, what is really good about these are they don't grow a really big taproot, so they're much smaller and bigger, but if you've got quite kind of stony or poor soil, they will probably grow quite well. I'm planning on growing these in the polytunnel, and hopefully they will do pretty well down the middle bed. The next variety that we're going to be growing is Chantenay 2, I believe, Royal Chantenay 2, and they are a short and stubby carrot, and we are going to be growing these today, or sowing them, in a 5-litre pot. And that 5-litre pot is actually going to be sown out here, and we are going to grow it on a windowsill from start to finish. So I'm hoping that in around about 10 weeks from now, I will be able to show you that I have managed to grow some carrots on a windowsill and we're going to have a nice harvest. So really excited to be sowing these. And the next variety that we're going to be sowing today is Amsterdam Forcing 3. Now, this is a variety of carrot that is probably, you know, we're more used to seeing in the supermarkets and things like that. It's a really good one for starting off early in the year. You can sow it outside, you can sow it inside. Obviously, if you're sowing outside, it's too early at the moment because we're not going to get the temperatures needed to germinate it. This variety here is going to be kept and grown in the greenhouse just behind me, and we're going to be growing that alongside another one, and that other variety is Early Nonce 2. Now, this is again one that's pretty good for growing early in the year, and again it's another elongated one. I've not grown this variety or the Amsterdam variety before, but again it's just going to be grown here behind me. So they are the 4 varieties that we're going to be sowing today. all being kind of sown in a slightly different way. So let's turn the camera around, get these sown, and I can't wait to get these growing. If you're new to growing carrots, there are probably a couple of things that's worth me mentioning now that might help you along. The first one is that carrots really do not like being started off in modular seed trays and then transplanted into the ground. They will grow, but you might find that as the carrot is the taproot, it kind of grows down really nice and straight. And if you are to grow it in a pot, it's going to be growing nice and straight, and then you move it out of the pot and then transplant it. There is a high possibility that that root is going to kind of wiggle a bit and get moved, or even maybe snapped off. So if you can, really do start them off in the area that you're going to be growing them. But in a minute, I will talk to you about transplanting them, actually, because the way we're going to be doing one of them is actually a little bit like that. But yeah, they do not like to be transplanted. So if you can start them off where you're going to grow them, then that is the best way. The second thing is that a carrot really doesn't like rich kind of manured soil or anything like that. They much prefer a poor quality soil that's a bit sandy and well draining. So if you practice a crop rotation in your garden, you know, the first year maybe you grow your potatoes, the next year your brassicas, then you maybe want to grow the carrots on the third year. So you don't really need to worry too much with carrots about putting a load of you know, fertilizer on them. You can just pretty much look after them and water them as they go along. And then the third thing, which is probably more important if you're growing them out in the ground, is that really do sow them quite thinly, because you will need to thin them out as they grow. And every time you thin them out, you do run the risk of attracting the carrot root fly. If you get the carrot root fly, they will kind of lay their eggs in the root of the carrot. They will kind of burrow in, and then you'll end up with a carrot that looks good, but when you come to, you know, it will look like it's had woodworm, basically. So if you can, try and sparingly, which I know it's really hard to do, but sparingly sow them, which does mean then that you'll have more seeds left over, so you can keep doing successional sowings, so you will get that harvest for longer in the year. Another point that we need to think about when sowing carrots this early in the year, and that is the minimum temperature they need to germinate. And I believe with a carrot it's anywhere between 15 degrees centigrade all the way up to about 23, 24. That's the optimum level that they want. And at the moment it is freezing in here. I have no idea where my thermometer is, but I'm telling you, we are not even at 13 degrees. And the top temperature around the last couple of weeks in here has been 23. So it really is so cold. Now, if we sow them today and leave them out here, it doesn't mean they won't germinate. They might just take much longer to germinate. I think a carrot seed takes anywhere between kind of 10 and 20 days to germinate. But obviously the quicker they germinate, the quicker we'll be able to harvest them. And another point is that obviously they have a minimum temperature to germinate, but once they have germinated, the temperatures can go much lower and they will grow. So my plan today is to actually start them off in here, and then we're going to be taking them inside. And I did tell you, didn't I, that they don't like to be transplanted, but I am actually doing something a little bit different this year. So the first way that we're going to be growing them is the chantenay ones. And as I mentioned, they are going to be grown in a pot. So they are actually going to be put in this 5-litre pot today, and then they will never be taken out of here. We are going to put them inside, and we are going to try and attempt to grow them on a windowsill. I'll obviously be moving them around, you know, so they get different levels of light on each side of the pot. But they are going to be grown indoors, and I'm hoping that in 10 days, in 10 weeks, we will have a lovely crop of those. And then the ox heart, they are going to be grown in my polytunnel. But at the moment, my polytunnel needs a little bit of work. It's a little bit overrun with weeds. So before I can sow anything direct in there, and as I mentioned, it's still a little bit too cold, I am going to be starting them off in toilet rolls. Now, the ox heart are obviously quite big, so they will outgrow these toilet rolls pretty quickly, but they will be started off, and then I can put them out from inside. Now, as I mentioned, the taproot obviously doesn't like to be disturbed too much, and with these, I'm hoping that because they're slightly longer and the ox heart is a stubby carrot, it's not going to matter too much. So we're going to be sowing the ox heart in these today, getting them germinated indoors, and then maybe in about 3 weeks or so, we can set up a bed in the polytunnel and we can get them transplanted. And then the third and the fourth ones, the Amsterdam forcing and the early nonce, now they are actually going to be sown in a bed just over there, as I mentioned, but rather than sowing them directly in the bed, I'm going to be sowing them in this massive seed tray. So you've got to hear me out with these seed trays, okay? This is an empty one. You can see it's really big. It's actually, I believe, a root trainer. And look, it already looks like a carrot, but as you can see, they've got a really big hole on the bottom. So when I went to visit a friend, Carl, last year, he's got an allotment really close to me and it is an amazing allotment. When he was showing me around, he had a couple of these already set up on a high tall raised bed, and he planted the carrots in there and they were just growing down into the ground below. So I thought, yes, how cool is that? And he was really kind and he gave me 4 of these. So I thought that get these started off at this time of year. I can take them in as soon as they've germinated, I can put them out, and I've actually got room for 2 of these in this bed. But what I decided today, because there's room for 28 carrots in here, what I thought is I will start one of them off now. I can have 2 rows of each varieties, Amsterdam and the early nonce, and then what I can do is start off another variety later in the year. But I've got 4 of them, so that'd be pretty good. And rather than growing them in the open ground in here or in the polytunnel, hopefully by having them here, they'll be slightly easier and less tempting for slugs and snails to eat them. So yeah, that is how we're going to be sowing them today. Let's turn the camera around and get them sown. So the first 2 that we're going to be sowing today are the Chantenay and the Oxheart. One thing I haven't actually mentioned is that you probably do, if you've got loads of time on your hands, you probably would want to sieve the soil so it's not got any stones in. And this is a mixture of homegrown compost and 2 lots of peat-free ones. So there are little bits of twig and stuff in here, but I'm not too worried about it. I'm not too worried that it's, you know, high in nutrients or anything like that. The main thing is that it's really kind of stony. As the taproot hits that stone, it goes then wonky. You end up with really weird looking carrots, but yeah, I'm not too worried about that. One thing I don't really want to do with the Chantenay is to have kind of too many carrots close together. So I am really going to try and just kind of put them quite kind of separate, one on its own in each area, just so I don't have to thin them out and I can save the seed. But I say this anyway, and I'll probably end up putting too many in there. I would usually sprinkle a carrot seed and then you end up with loads of them all together, but I think what I'm going to do today is just do 2 together, and then if they both germinate, I will 100%, I promise to myself, I will cut one of them off so that I don't have to worry about thinning them out. These ones though are going to be grown inside, so I don't really have to worry about the carrot root fly too much. A carrot root fly will generally fly at around about kind of 50 centimeters off the ground. So if you do grow them in pots and you keep them like high up, like on a table or something like that, you probably, well, you should be okay. And these ones are going to be grown inside and inside upstairs, so hopefully the carrot root fly won't find them. So now we get onto the Oxheart, and I'm again going to just try and put 2 in each. You have to tell me if you've already sown some of your carrot seeds yourself, and if you have already started your carrots off, how are you growing them and what varieties. Also, let me know if you've grown Oxheart. I'm really excited about this variety this year. So now we get on to the early nonce and the Amsterdam forcing. So I'm going to put 2 lots of Amsterdam forcing here and then the 2 lots of early nonce. I'm probably most excited about growing these this year actually, because there is so much compost in these already, and hopefully we will have an amazing harvest, some big fat carrots. Okay, I think quite a few of those got 3. One thing I've just thought about actually, I'm going to have to put If I put a yellow stick in there, I know that those are the Amsterdam forcing, because otherwise I'm going to forget which, or get confused with which one's which. I'm so pleased that I came out to the greenhouse today and got another crop sown. But please do not worry if you're panicking watching this, thinking you're behind or anything. Honestly, the reason I've got to take them in and germinate them inside is because it is still so cold and so early. So please, honestly, don't panic at all. All of these will be going on a big windowsill halfway up my staircase. So it's the middle window up there. And I've got one of these big kind of seed kind of drip tray things. Needs a wash, but then they'll be all put on there. And as I said, all of the carrots will be back out here as soon as they've germinated, apart from the chantenays, as they'll be staying in all of the time. So there you go. Thanks so much for watching. If this is the first time you're watching one of my videos, I really hope you've enjoyed it. Please do hit that subscribe button and ring the bell to be notified of all of my latest videos. As ever, YouTube have some videos up now on this screen that they think you'll like. So please go ahead and watch those, and I'll catch up with you in the next video. Bye!